But we begin with breaking news. A COVID outbreak has forced Beaumont ISD to close Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Middle School all week. The district blaming the rising number of COVID cases among staff and students. The school will be closed tomorrow through Friday. Crews will come in and do a deep cleaning this week. Teachers are putting together learning packets for kids. They'll be available starting tomorrow afternoon.
Georgia, we getting ready to start.
Okay.
Good afternoon. An emergency meeting of the Board of Trustees of Beaumont Independent School District has been called on August 23rd, 2021, beginning at 12:00 p.m. in accordance with the guidance from the Texas Governor and Attorney General dated March 16, 2020, regarding suspension of open meeting laws. Following the meeting, the public will be provided access to a recording of the meeting upon request. At 12:00 p.m., call the meeting to order. Roll call, Mrs. Antoine.
Recording in progress.
Here.
Mr. Woodrow Reese, Mr. Lewis,
Here.
Mr. Evans,
Here.
Miss Hickman,
Here.
Mr. Kevin Reese, Miss Spooner.
Okay, now that we have a quorum, if during the course of this meeting, discussion of any item on the agenda should be held in a closed meeting, the board would conduct a closed meeting in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551, Subchapters D and E, or Texas Government Code, Section 418.183F. Before any closed meeting is convened, the presiding officer will publicly identify the section or sections of the act authorizing the closed meeting. All final votes, actions, or decisions will be taken in open meeting. See Board Policy BEC Legal. We have an action item. Consider COVID-19 mitigation resolution, including consideration of face covering. Is there a motion?
So moved.
It has been moved by Ms. Hickman and second by Mr. Lewis to consider COVID-19 mitigation resolution, including consideration of face covering. Is there any discussion?
Mr. President, I want to take an opportunity to update the board on where we are. Late yesterday afternoon, we received information from the Green Dot team regarding COVID cases at Green Dot. We were in a situation, and the team at Green Dot, who has sole authority, of course, to make the decisions regarding closing the school, made the determination based upon the number of positive cases that were on site for staff or cases that involved a close contact for staff. So it was determined that about 9 teachers would be out and would not be available to actually provide instruction to students. One of the things that we did yesterday was we determined whether or not we could identify substitutes, worked Saturday and Sunday looking to identify substitutes, and were not able to identify subs to come in. When we look at the fact that we were only in school 4 days and it was necessary to close a campus after such a short amount of time, it really emphasizes the impactfulness of this Delta variant, which is a considerable concern. We are looking at more and more cases, of course, arising in our buildings and throughout the course of our organization on a daily basis. Right now, we are monitoring the COVID cases. We have our COVID-19 tracker that is updated once we confirm cases. Once we confirm that the information is accurate and correct, we are updating the COVID-19 tracker on a daily basis. Right now, when you consider where we are in our community, and I did ask Mr. Kenneth Coleman, the director of the health department, if he could participate. I'm not certain if he's in the meeting right now, but I did ask him to be available to support questions that the board may have from the local community context regarding COVID-19 and the fact that we don't have ICU
But we
beds
begin with
available,
breaking news.
that the number
A
of cases
COVID
are
outbreak
rising.
has forced
When we
Beaumont
just look at
ISD
BISD
to
and the
close
fact that
Dr.
we've
Martin
been
Luther King
open
Jr.
for 4
Middle
days,
School all week.
and we're
The
at a
district blaming
scenario
the
where it
rising
was
number of
necessary
COVID
to
cases
close the
among staff
campus for
and
this
students.
week.
The school will be closed
That's a
tomorrow through
significant
Friday.
concern.
Crews will come
And if
in and
wearing
do a
masks
deep
helps
cleaning this
mitigate,
week.
which we know it does
Teachers
because we
are
saw
putting
it last
together
year,
learning
if
packets
that
for
helps
kids.
to
They'll be
mitigate the
available starting
spread
tomorrow afternoon.
of COVID, then it is necessary, I think, at this time that the board engage in making that decision. We want to keep our schools open. We want to keep them open. Right now, we don't have options to flip to virtual, as has been stated before. And when we don't have teachers available to teach in the classroom because they're out for COVID, and we don't have substitutes or enough substitutes available to cover the classes, it's a health and safety risk. And then we have to flip and close a school. When you look at the data for King's data was close to 25%. I think it was about 23% of the staff that were unavailable or that were impacted by COVID. And as a result, the team at Green Dot, of course, found it necessary to make that closure. Looking at all of our campuses, again, the numbers are increasing daily. When we look at the CDC recommendation and the CDC guidance for schools, that again indicates that it's recommended that individuals 2 years of age or higher in schools wear a face covering. That's where we are today. So I do want to open up the opportunity for any of our board members to dialogue and have discussion. And I'm not certain whether or not Mr. Coleman is on. Yes, I said
he's on.
Coleman is available to respond to the local health context. But you know what has changed from Thursday to today, and this thing is changing every day, but more and more cases are erupting within our buildings. And I'm very concerned that school has closed after 4 days because I couldn't get staff, enough substitutes to cover those classes. I'm very concerned about that.
Okay, I understand that the Delta variant is getting out of control. I see that Mr. Coleman is on the line. Mr. Coleman, could you make a comment to that? Mr. Coleman?
You're on mute. You're on mute, Mr. Coleman. Let's see.
Okay, can you guys hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I'm glad to be able to participate. Just based on what Dr. Allen was saying, yeah, the Delta variant has changed the game. It's more contagious than the previous variants, and that's why we're seeing such a sharp and rapid increase in positive cases. And what you guys are dealing with as relates to King, we're actually seeing that in our Catholic schools now. I mean, they have up to 80 to 90 kids that are out, so far as contact tracing is concerned. Now, CDC guidance has an exception in their guidance for contact tracing as it relates to K through 12. And we know the definition of a contact is anyone within 3 to 6 feet of a laboratory confirmed case of COVID or a one that's presenting symptoms. But the exception in CDC guidance is if everyone had on the mask, wore it correctly at all times, and if you have a positive case in the classroom, the only person that needs to quarantine is the positive case. The contacts do not need to quarantine if everyone had on the mask. So, because if we continue the way we're going with the option to wear a mask, this is what we're going to be facing with all the school year.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Mr. Coleman. Is there any more questions or discussion? Mr. Lewis?
You're muted.
You muted. You got it?
Yes, if Mr. Coleman, you can update us about what are the available beds that we have up in Jefferson County.
If you can repeat the question, please.
So can you repeat it?
It was not allowed.
He asked how many available beds, Mr. Coleman, do we have in our county? Can you give us an update on the availability of ICU beds and the hospitalizations for our area?
Well, where we are with our local hospitals, and that's Baptist, St. Elizabeth, and the Med Center. Right now, from this morning, Baptist has reported to me this morning, I'm waiting on the other three, and they give me this report daily, is that right now, Baptist have 108 COVID patients. Of that 108, probably 40 or more is holding in the ER, which means they do not have beds available for these 40 COVID patients. And this also has a huge impact on the entire medical system, because when you call 911, typically we look at that 5 to 8 minutes before a medic arrives. Now that may be 30 minutes to an hour, if not longer, simply because when we transport a patient to a hospital, that patient belongs to that medic until that hospital receives the patient. So now our medics are being held up at the hospital. It can be 5 hours or longer before the hospital receives the patient. And with that being said, that takes that unit out of service. So what we're faced with now is that for people that's having heart attacks or maybe in a car accident, because there's no beds available here, they have to be transferred out. And we've had situations where local people had to be transferred out to North Dakota, because not only is there no bed in Texas, there's no beds in Louisiana, Oklahoma is running out of beds, Mississippi is running out of beds. So, I mean, this is the trend that we see here is the trend that's going on throughout the nation.
Are there any more questions?
Maybe in a car accident, because there's no beds available
Yes,
here,
Mr. Coleman, can
they
you
have
hear
to be
me?
transferred out. Yes, ma'am. And we've had
Okay, my
situations where
question
local
is,
people had to be transferred out to North Dakota. Because not only is there no bed in Texas, there's no beds in Louisiana. Oklahoma is running out of beds. Mississippi is running out of beds. So, I mean, this is the trend that we see here is the trend that's going on throughout the nation.
That protocol or procedure, what, just for my
any more questions?
information,
Maybe
what
in
are
a
we
car
doing for
accident
our 3
because
and
there's
4
no
year
beds
olds?
available
Yes,
here,
Mr. Coleman,
where
can you hear me?
CDC guidance states that anyone at the age of 2 and above can wear a mask. Because not only is there no bed in Texas, there's no beds in Louisiana. Oklahoma is running out of beds. Mississippi is running out of beds. So, I mean, this is
One of the things
trend
that is a
we see
big
here
concern is
is
just
the
how
trend that's
quickly,
going on
you know,
throughout
this
the
is
nation.
happening. And
What, just for my
our desire and goal is to keep open, not have to close schools. And if there's anything that we can do to slow this down, then we need to do what we can do.
I agree. We can't continue to go along this path right now that we're on. Like I said before, the Delta variant is getting out of control, and we have to protect our students and staff. So, are there any more discussion?
I'm trying to get Mr. Reese's on, and he's having difficulty unmuting. So I'm trying to get that setting changed. I know he had some feedback. He just said we need to do what we can do.
Okay, we'll
I'm
wait.
trying to get him.
I agree. We can't continue to go along this path right now that we're on.
I was going to ask him,
Like I said before, the Delta variant is getting out of control, and we have to protect our students and
what
staff.
mask is going to, because when I read
So,
it
are
gave
there
a lot of
any more
descriptions, and
discussion?
it talked about the surgical
I'm
mask
trying
that
to get
everybody's wearing, and you know,
Mr.
how long
Reese's
it's good for,
on,
and the
and he's
reason why
having
it's
difficulty
suggested,
unmuting.
I'm trying to figure out
I'm
that
trying to
change,
get
because
that
what I'm
setting
saying
changed.
is
I know he had some
N95,
feedback. He just said
are
we
actually
need
going
to
to
do
filter
on.
Okay, we'll
I'm
wait.
trying to
a
get
small
him.
particles out. Not
I
just
agree.
people let me
We
in
can't
your face.
continue
The
to
reason why I'm asking
go along.
is
Yes,
you're going to get a lot of
yes, go
false
ahead.
courage from people who are at
Like I
risk,
said before,
living
the Delta variant is getting out of
living at
control,
risk, going to parties, still
and
coming
we
to
have to
school wearing the
protect our
mask, when the
students and
mask is not
staff.
really protecting
So,
as much
are
as
there
we
any
think.
more
So they come
discussion?
to school and still getting people infected. And you know how long it's good
Okay,
for,
now,
the reason why
you're right with the N95 is the best mask to wear. But the N95 is really being set aside for people who actually work in the hospital, because they're hands-on working with people who are positive. Now, your surgical mask is next in line. So what's recommended, because we know, and CDC knows that everybody's not going to have access to the N95 mask. So what CDC is recommending is that you wear a surgical mask along with a cloth mask, or double up on your surgical N95. You'll have better protection than just wearing a cloth mask. So any type of mask you have on, it gives you some sense of protection. Your surgical mask, of course, your N95 is a better mask. So what's recommended, because we know, and CDC knows that everybody's not going to have access to the N95 mask. So what CDC is recommending is that you wear a surgical mask along with a cloth mask, or double up on your surgical N95. You'll have better protection than just wearing a cloth mask. So any type of mask you have on, it gives you some sense of protection. Your surgical mask, of course, your N95 is in line. No, actually, so what's recommended,
they're not just doing it because politicians are trying to, you know, listen to put a round peg into a square hole.
No, you actually can wear, you should change your mask out daily. It's not every 15 minutes. Even in the hospital, they can wear an N95 for their shift, and then you just get a new mask.
Yeah, we're talking about the ones second in line is not going to be as
Yeah, but you still can wear a surgical mask. The kids can wear it for that day. They shouldn't, wear the same mask for the whole week. No, you actually can wear, you should change your mask out daily. It's not every 15 minutes. Yeah, they can wear it. They can wear it for that day, N95 for they ship.
I think that was
And then you just get
district
your
days.
mask.
And after a couple of hours, it was so dirty for me handling it.
But you still can wear a surgical mask. The kids can wear it for that day. They shouldn't. Well, and again, when we talk about touching stuff, that's why we need to sanitize our hand after we touch any surface. And that's the whole idea behind washing your hands. The whole idea behind the mask, Mr. Reese, is when I wear my mask, I'm protecting you, whether you have on a mask or not, because my mask is controlling what's coming out of my mouth, what's coming out of my nose. And that's why it's important that everyone have on a mask. If everyone wear a mask, then we're protecting each other. Because me having on my mask doesn't necessarily protect me from you if you're not wearing a mask. And that's why everybody needs to have on their hands. The whole idea behind the mask, Mr. Reese, is when I wear my mask, I'm protecting you. Because right now you have on a mask. The only protection we do have is wearing that mask and getting vaccinated. And that's the only protection we do have against this virus. Outside of that, we have no other protection. Then we're protecting each other. Because if we can get the kids on my mask, I'm sorry, go ahead, take me from you if you're not wearing it. And that's why everybody
I haven't been able to go virtual or do anything else. I just work for UPS because I'm out here and keeping a safe distance.
Because right now you have on a mask. The only protection you
wearing the mask
is wearing that mask and getting vaccinated. And that's the only protection we do have against
kind of a hard thing to wear when you're sweating all day.
Outside of that, we have no other protection.
Compromise the mask.
Because if we can get the kids on my mask, I'm sorry,
that's why we don't get to that problem third. A lot of people wearing them, and people still getting sick because
that's why everybody
they're going to parties wearing them, hanging out with their friends and family wearing them. I just work and not really social distance and keeping a safe distance.
The idea again behind the mask is that we have to ensure that we're wearing it correctly. And correctly is over the nose and the mouth. We see a lot of people have on the mask and it's beneath the nose, right? And that's
yeah, for some it may be uncomfortable. Like my daughter was born premature. They had to give her some shots to get her lungs to function because they're proper. She had to stay in ICU for about 2.5 weeks, hanging out with her friends and family. That's why another why we're concerned, and still to this day,
the idea again behind the mask is that we have to ensure that we're wearing it correctly. Correctly is over the nose and the mouth. We see a lot of people have on the mask and it's beneath the nose.
If you ever had any chance to find out really what
Right, and that's
16 gonna be 17.
well. If I can ask you a personal question, I mean, you have she been vaccinated?
No.
Well, that's her best protection against this virus. It's her being vaccinated.
And it's hard for me to believe that her best when we have going this far without any problem, without any and at one point in time, my 92-year-old grandmother was staying with us.
Well, I mean, that's a personal choice that you guys have made, but I'm just giving you the data. When we look at right now, when we look at what's in our hospital, based on our last report, which was Friday, 94% of the people that's in the hospital is unvaccinated. 100% of the people as of Friday that was on ventilators are unvaccinated. So the proof is in the data that what the vaccine will do, it will not necessarily stop you from catching COVID, but it can prevent you from becoming severely ill. It can prevent you from being on that ventilator, and ultimately it prevents death. I mean, that's just in the data.
Yeah, I don't think about scientific data. How many years does it take for it to become actually law instead of theory or hypothetical? And that's the thing. So we're still learning, So I understand that, and I not knocking none of it, but being a man of science for a long time, it's just kind of one of them hard pills to just swallow and go with because of, what I've learned all these years. And I ain't hear anything about throwing all that away. But 5-10 years is due to case study for a lot of things. before they actually become. But yeah, you can observe the data in real time and come up with a good hypothesis. But we
Well,
pushing it like it's law and we know, like we're certain.
I can only give you the data, Mr. Reese, and this is what the data is showing, but it's a personal choice as to whether or not anyone personally choose to get vaccinated or not. But one thing we do know, we do know that this virus kills. We do know that. And we know that it's spreading rapidly. That's one thing we do know. So, but it's a personal choice. It's a personal choice.
I think they need to be pumping more of the mask mandate will pass. But I think another thing that needs to be pushed is a better life. This just shows we need to live a better lifestyle, eat better, exercise. There's a lot of things that need to be done because the other thing to this, the people that's being unvaccinated or that's in there, a lot of them having already having conditions. They're already in bad health. And the virus seems to be tracking that.
Well, Mr. Reese, I disagree with that because there's a lot of people in the hospital who have no underlying health conditions.
Sure.
And so, and just because a person is a diabetic doesn't mean that they eat bad, doesn't mean that they're not healthy. Diabetes is hereditary. So there's a lot of people with diabetes, had it not been for COVID, they'll still be here.
Okay, the concern of the board is about the students, staff, and teachers of BISD. And this meeting is that's what this meeting is for. So, Mr. Coleman, your recommendation is, okay, if we can't have access to those N95 masks, those surgical masks would be our best options, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So is there any more discussion?
And let me just add this.
No.
For the quarantine is different for the vaccinated. If a person is fully vaccinated and they are a contact to a case, the vaccinated person does not have to quarantine.
Okay. Got it.
And so we can get most of the people that's medically who's eligible and age eligible to get vaccinated, and that will help keep staff as well as students at school.
Mr. Coleman.
Yes, ma'am.
This is Ms. Spooner. One last question from me. I'm thinking about those individuals that have respiratory issues, etc. What are our parameters for individuals that have a medical excuse or exemption from wearing the mask? Where do we stand with that?
Well, I mean, if they have a medical excuse from their physician saying they shouldn't wear a mask, I mean, the next best option is for that person, if medically they can, to get vaccinated, if they're age eligible and medically, because we do have situations where a person, struggles with wearing a mask. I mean, we don't have many choices. We don't have many solutions other than, the mask wearing, social distancing, and vaccination. And now that we have every kid on campus now, it's going to be very difficult to social distance. It was manageable last year because a lot of kids was doing virtual. That's not an option this year. And based on what Dr. Allen was saying earlier, I mean, you've been in school a week and we've seen already what happened at King. And so it's just a matter of time before it happens at BU. Just a matter of time before it happens at Westbrook. And so in order to keep kids in school where they need to be to learn and keep the staff working, it's the mask and the vaccination.
And to add to Ms. Spooner's question about medically fragile students who may not be able to, we have a process that we utilized last year, Ms. Spooner, that parents can go through the process, because there were some students who actually couldn't wear those face coverings. And we followed through on the protocols that we set, that we established last year. And if the board approves a mask mandate, we would reestablish those protocols for some students who meet the criteria for not actually being able to wear them.
Thank you.
One of the questions was about those face shields.
Well, the face shield doesn't protect you from coming in contact with COVID.
Right.
Face shields and goggles are used in the hospital for people who are doing hands-on in case they had to intubate a patient.
Right.
To protect them from splashes or spills from getting into their eyes.
You don't have any more?
Mr. Evans,
Oh, Mr. Evans, go ahead.
you're muted.
He said he can't unmute.
And Adam, can you assist, or Georgia, can you assist with helping Mr. Evans unmute?
There it goes.
Okay.
All right, I'm here. Ms. Fisher, where are we in regards to GA 38 and Attorney General Paxton's his whole overview and his spiel on this thing? Where are we in regards to that? Did the governor rescind? And is AG Paxton still under the, same thing as he's going to prosecute or pursue legal actions against districts out of compliance? That's my biggest question.
Since our discussion on Thursday, the status of a school district's ability, or I shouldn't say ability, but lawful entitlement to issue and mandate remains the same. There's currently a temporary restraining order issued out of Travis County that enjoins the governor from enforcing GA 38 with regard to mask mandates for school. However, that TRO will expire, no doubt, on August 27th. And there's also a hearing in that matter on August 25th. And it's even arguable whether or not that TRO provides the district true legal footing to issue a mask mandate in light of GA 38. And if the board wants to discuss legal risks, et cetera, related to that, I would recommend that we jump into closed session really quick so that I can share that with the district about our exposure for liability, et cetera. As of this morning, the Attorney General put out in social media that he still intends to pursue litigation with school districts that do not comply with GA 38.
Is there a need to go into closed session to get further legal advice?
You're muted again.
I'm muted.
Mr.
No,
Evans
Joe.
is muted.
Mr. Evans.
All right, so I don't know if there's a need for us to go into executive session or not, but I just need to know where we are legally, because here's the deal. I am extremely concerned about our teachers, our students, our faculty. I don't want this to be a situation where it seems like we're not concerned and we're not taking it serious. It is what it is. This thing is serious. It's beyond serious, and it's been upon us for a while. So my concerns in my heart, in my mind, and my soul are definitely with our students, our teachers, and our faculty. But at the same time, I took an oath. And that oath I told me to preserve and uphold the Constitution of this land and of this state and adhere to the laws that are in front of us. So between the legal aspect of this, and I'll be frankly honest with you, I've received several emails, texts, Facebook messengers from my constituents and teachers in our district who have asked me to not vote for mandating masks. They don't want, the teachers don't want to police it. And then when we talk about policing it, we've just added a different layer, because now Dr. Kenneth has told us that you have to wear that mask correctly. So now we're in a situation where we're having the teacher say, put your mask on, Johnny. Pull your mask up, Johnny. Put it over your nose, Johnny. And so now here we go with this negative interaction between our teachers and our students. And I think that's further, putting us behind the 8 ball, so to speak, for lack of a better term. So between the conversation back and forth with Mr. Kevin Reese, Trustee Reese, I'm sorry, and Dr. Kenneth, and knowing that we could face legal ramifications if we, pass an ordinance or a moratorium or whatever we pass in favor of a mask mandate, me personally, as a trustee, as a person who took an oath, I cannot support a measure that's illegal. And I know what the concerns are, and I know at some point you have to fight. And I don't know if this is a fight I'm ready to fight with the governor and the attorney general. And, based on what I'm hearing from my constituents and based on the legalities behind this, and also based on the ambiguity with the science, I cannot support a measure that mandates a mask wearing on our campuses. But once again, I can support a resolution highly recommending, or something to that degree. I can support that, and like I said before, that's a compromise for me, but it's a compromise I'm willing to make. So that's my take on this. I am deeply concerned about what's going on, so I hope that doesn't get misconstrued that I'm not, but I can't break the law in order to enforce this mandate.
Is there any more discussion?
Mr. Lewis.
Mr. Lewis.
Yes, I respect the trustee Evans. However, just recently we just passed board adopted goals, and one of them, number 4, was in order to create a safe environment. My personal belief is, masks are uncomfortable, but for the foreseeable future, there will be something that which we're gonna have to endure. We're gonna have to have. I wear my mask to protect others. In order for me to remain uncompromised and safe, I need other people to wear their masks to protect me. I do so in the boardroom, I do so in my place of business, I do so when I'm out shopping just like everyone else. And it is our governing body that enforces a law or a policy to do what's in the best interest for our 17,000 plus students and our 2,000 plus staff. And if it's legal litigations that we must face, then I'm willing to face that for what is right for our students, our staff, and our educators, because they go home to someone. And I can't leave that burden upon me because I didn't mandate masks.
Okay, we are charged as a board for the safety of these students, teachers, and staff. I'm not going to get into the political realm of making this thing political decision about mandating masks. I'm not afraid of getting into a little legal action if it will save our children. Now, we have students that are under the age of 12 that the vaccine has not been approved yet. So we have to protect these babies. And I understand some people don't want to wear masks, and I understand that some people don't want to have to control that in their classes. Now, last year, the kids that was on campus wore masks, and it worked out pretty good. Now, we had some cases, but we did pretty good with that. And now that this new Delta variant is out, and it's a lot more dangerous than the initial variant, especially to the younger people, I think that this is a decision that this board needs to make to protect everyone involved. And like Mr. Lewis say, I wear my mask also. And that is for me to protect you. And I need you to protect me. Now, as a board, like I said before, we have that responsibility to protect everyone. And whatever we need to do that. Any means necessary. Is there any more discussion? Well, if there isn't any more discussion, all of those in favor, raise your right hand and signal an aye. Mr. Lewis is aye.
Mrs. Hickman is aye.
Ms. Hickman is aye.
Spooner is aye.
Ms. Spooner is aye.
Kevin Reese is a nay.
Kevin Reese is a nay. Mr. Evans? Mr. Evans, you need to vote. Is he muted?
There's an issue with the mute. We can't unmute ourselves. We have to get permission first.
I'm against, Mr. President. Nay.
Okay, that's 2 nays, 3 ayes. My vote is aye. The vote is 4-2 with 1 absent to approve a mask mandate. So the motion passed. Does anyone else have anything to say before we close the meeting? If not, I need a motion. Second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we adjourn. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.